Alright everybody, welcome to Tactics and Tea, the 0 to 500. So I'm using chess.com's puzzle dashboard, where you're able to select different themes and different rating levels. And what we have here is all themes for 0 to 500. So I'm going to jump through and kind of give my explanation of what I'm doing at each individual point, and hopefully it will be fun / instructive, or at least you can laugh along with my blundering. So the first thing here we have is white to move. So we're going to go through checks, captures, and threats. So it looks to me like this is one of our checks. It looks to me that that is our only check. We can capture this. We can also capture here. And it looks like that is going to be it in terms of capturing. If we were to capture this, we have this capture as well. And then our only check is going to be here again. The issue with that is that this rook would be able to come back and grab our queen. If we were to try and do something like this, after the rook has already been swapped off, the queen can come in, so we can't do that either. If we come here and grab this rook, it will be check. The only thing that black can do is either capture our queen back or move out of the way. Can't move out of the way, nothing can block it. So we're anticipating this rook move back, capturing our queen, at which point we can bring our rook down and capture their rook or mate. So we'll do this, and we'll bring that in, and we have mate right there. Puzzle rating of 381. All right, so we'll go on to the next puzzle. As the next puzzle, we're doing very similar. So checks and captures first. So the first thing that I see right here is this available check. We can also have this capture. We can take this, but again, not necessarily doing much. It is protected. So of those, if we were to come down here for check, the king cannot move out of the way, but it can be blocked. We have this move right here. But then, just as we were talking about it, we have this rook hitting this pawn. So if we were to come in here, bishop blocks, we can then capture. The king can only move in one direction at that point. As this bishop is no longer here, it can't move forward because of the queen. Has to move back over here. And then taking the bishop will be checkmate. We'll bring this in, grab that pawn. The king has to move over, and then you're able to win the bishop with checkmate. Puzzle rating of 100. Alright, next up, white to move. We've just had our knight taken over here on the end. And again, checks, captures, threats. So the checks that we have available, it looks like it's just going to be this. We can't do anything else with these pawns, and everything else is blocked for our two rooks. Looking at captures, I don't see anything at all. Our pawns are too far away from everything, and our rooks are not actually attacking anything in particular. So this looks to be our only move, assuming that we were going with the assumption that it is a check, capture, or a threat. So this gives us a check. We then have to move the king over, only legal move. We can either go here or here. If the king comes over, we have this other rook that we can bring into the equation. So we'll have this, and then this rook. Now the king can't move here. The king can move here. And that would be the only legal move. If they don't do that, so they can move their king here instead. We have this check again. The king can move here, and that is their only move available for them. They can't move further back because of the issue with this rook getting this and this rook over here. So we'll move this way, and if they come here or here, their next move is going to be to bring the king to f6. So it's here, king moves over, rook moves over, only legal move. So if the king is here, we have this pawn protecting this area, and we already have this rook guarding this file right here. What is our option in order to check and block off this escape square? And it's going to be bringing this first rook back into the equation, capturing this pawn. We're protected along here because of our second rook. We're attacking on this first file, and we are making sure that this pawn is in a good position. We'll bring this rook in, and then we'll capture this pawn. You'll see we are blocked off here. We're attacking this way, and the king cannot escape. Puzzle rating of 400. All right, black to move. Black to move in this situation. So in this situation, we have a check available here. Not really a great check available, but it is a check. Same thing with this, and same thing here. So we can just capture this. In terms of captures, we have this, which is, you know, as you can guess, pretty terrible. We have this, which again is potentially a problem. But what can we do about this that might make sense? So if we were to capture this, which is protecting this rook here, if we were to capture this and have this rook come over and capture, we can then capture this rook here. So bishop comes, captures the pawn, we're up 1. A rook comes in and captures that bishop, we're down 2. And now we've captured a rook and we are up 7. We have the option to potentially grab this pawn. We're attacking this rook right here. We've definitely got some possible options. Let's go ahead and capture that pawn. Rook comes over just as we expected. Now this is completely undefended. Now they have an option to come down and give check. We can just move away. Lots of options to do that. When we capture this pawn, it's going to come with check. If they don't move it, we can take another rook, and we're in a good position. Puzzle rating of 318. All right, white to move here. So it is true that our queen is in quite some danger here, but so is their queen. So definitely something that we want to keep in mind is that both of them are in equal danger, and both from rooks, for what it's worth. So if they are both in danger, what are some things that we might be able to do here? So it doesn't look like we have any checks available, but there's a lot of capturing opportunities. So we can capture a rook, we can capture pawns, we can capture a knight, we can capture this queen. So a lot of opportunities in order to capture different pieces on the board. Because we can just capture this right here and they will capture, they're not going to do that. We're going to come up, grab their queen, they're going to grab our queen. At which point though, we can take their knight. So we have another move available for us. We can technically do the same thing here, where we can take this rook. They can take our rook. We can take the queen. Or we can take a rook, they can take our rook. That's check for us. We can take their queen, they can take our queen. There's lots of potential ways for that to go. If we do nothing, we're going to have our queen taken. So if here, they're going to capture this way, we can capture, and we're pretty much just down, right? So here, they can actually move out of the way if they wanted to. They can come in here, captures, captures, or we can do it this way, captures, captures, and we go up a knight. Let's go ahead and take that queen. They're going to take ours, and then we have a move in between where we're able to capture that knight. Puzzle rating of 453. Right, so black to move in this situation, very similar, where our queens are staring at each other, always a frightening moment. But how can we potentially get this queen so it's not as protected? Right now we have this rook right here. If we look at our captures and our checks, we have this check right here, which at first glance kind of pointless because they can capture our rook with their rook. No harm, no foul there. But what we can actually do is then take this queen. So it's a distraction technique to pull them away, and then we can go ahead and grab this queen. If we were to take this queen first, they have this, and then we have a check. But that check doesn't really do anything, right? They can come here, they can bounce back, and you know, we're going to be potentially winning, but it's much easier to win if we can get their queen first. So let's go ahead and give this check. Oh, they didn't even move it over. Okay. So we can still steal this. Yeah, we can still take here. And then we can take the queen. Puzzle rating of 425. I think that was a little bit lower than a 4, or a little bit higher than a 425. But we're good nonetheless. Alright, white to move. Definitely an opening trap. This is going to be kind of an interesting one. So this is something that people unfortunately get hit with on a fairly regular basis. So we're going to go ahead and look for our checks and captures. Definitely difficult to check and to look at that particular item yet, but I think you might be surprised. So we have this check. Doesn't really do much. We can just capture with the pawn. And then we have this check. And this check is one of those that I think we all hope for. A little suffocation mate. And we are able to win. Just an easy way to do that. Alright, puzzle rating of a 100. Smother mate. I think I may have said suffocation. Alright, so black to move. We are in check. That's going to be a problem for us. So how do we potentially get away from that? We can't capture here because it is protected. We can bring our rook in. They can bring their rook in. We can capture that. They can capture with the knight. So definitely some things we have to consider, but we have to get ourselves out of check. This is a potential move, getting rid of the rook. What does that do for us? So if they were to come up here, we're now allowing them to take the knight with their queen, and we have very few opportunities to move after that. So we have this and we have this. What are some things that we could do? We could move up, they can capture, we can capture, they can capture. Let's go ahead and capture their rook first. All right, we're gonna go ahead and capture this. And we know this is coming in, but we can bring this all the way down because our bishop is protecting this rook. All right. And then we can go ahead and keep it going. Capture. Again, we don't want to capture with the bishop because it is the only thing protecting the rook. At some point we will have a wonderful discover check as we take that knight and kick this king into the corner, dropping back down for a wonderful checkmate. Puzzle rating of 100. I am going to say that was much higher rated than a 100 level puzzle. Alright, so kind of an interesting one. We just had our piece captured. So we'll have our knight here. And definitely a dangerous situation. Right? We're potentially looking at a discovered check things. We've got this, which is going to hit a multiple fork. This can't move because of the pin. But we bring it back to the basics. So what are our checks and captures? So if we take a look, we can't capture anything with our pawns. Our rooks are still hidden away, can't do anything there. Our bishop again is pinned, so we can't capture there. We can take this knight. We have this pawn, but definitely protected. And then we have a long range onto the rook right here. And unfortunately for black, it's going to spell disaster. They don't have any way to jump in front of it. They don't have any way to recapture the queen. So what we can do here is just a quick little mate to win the game. Rating of 339. Alright, so we just had this rook move in, white to move. What we have available, so we are down a rook, we are currently in check, and we're going to have a nice king and pawn endgame here. Because we can capture this way, and then the king has to make some decisions. And we have some options available for us. So let's go ahead and capture the rook. And he's going to move over. Okay. So at this point, we actually have a couple different things that we can do. So we don't want to give this pawn up because of how close it is to promotion. We also don't necessarily want to push or let them push here. And we definitely don't want to do this. So if we're to do this, which seems to be one of the few moves we have available to us, they can capture this way and then run down the board. We can catch it, but we will then end up giving up our own pawn allowing them to get in behind here and be able to push their pawns themselves. So in this particular case, we have a move like this. Obviously, we can't move up, and if we move back, the problem is that they can go ahead and grab this pawn. So if we just move over, it goes back to their move. They're unable to do this, and we can actually slide up the board, chaperoning this pawn all the way to the end game. So if we slide on over, we have this move available for us now. If they push or if they push, we can capture, and at some point the king will have to move in order to either let this pawn by or let this pawn up the board. I can't guard everything. And that was a puzzle rating of 366. These are tough puzzles for the low rating level that they're potentially giving them. All right, so another one where we're definitely in a lot of danger here. We have this coming at us. We've got some. We've definitely got some problems. It is black to move, so there's a lot of checks that they have available for them. We definitely don't want to get into any situation there. But again, looking as black, what are our checks and captures that we have available? So we can grab this pawn, we can grab this pawn. It looks like that might actually be it in terms of capturing. So our checks, we have this check with the queen, we have this check with the queen. Both of those aren't necessarily great. We have this check with the rook, and it is guarded. So potentially not that bad of an issue. They maybe move over. They can't do anything else. And then once we move the rook out of the way, then we again have a discovered check. But instead of all of that, why don't we just move in here? They can't capture it, they can't move out of the way, and it is an easy way to get checkmates. Puzzle rating of 341. All right, still moving on up. What do we have available for us here? Again, we're looking for the checks and captures to make sure that we have everything available for us. We are already in check, so we want to make sure that we move out of the way there, or we can go ahead and block that check. So if we were to come in this way, it is going to be check on the white king, and we are going to have the option to trade queens. Now, if we're trading those queens down, we're obviously going to be in a king and pawn endgame, and if we're in that king and pawn endgame, which side of the board do you want to be playing for? I know which side that I want, and it is definitely black. So this is a good puzzle for us. Let's go ahead and move that queen in front to block this check. Again, giving check on that king, forcing that queen trade, and making it a king and pawn race. And even though I don't run, I know that I can run this much faster than white can run this down the board. So we'll go ahead and move that queen in for check. We'll go ahead and capture that. And then as they move down, we will do the same, and we will go ahead and get a queen to win the game. All right, next up, white to move. Definitely going to be an interesting opening that we've had in the game so far. We'll see what we can do. The king has made some fun moves. Right? So a lot of you are going to be looking at this and being concerned, but we don't have to worry about it because right now we are actually pinning that queen. And because we're pinning that queen, we're first immediately going to be looking at why can't we capture this queen? And we can. We can just capture that queen. It's going to come with check. And because the king doesn't have any ways to move, they actually need to continue to block it. Their only way to block it is with this bishop. We can go ahead and capture that bishop as well. And not only do they lose their queen this early in the game, they will end up losing the game almost as quickly. All right, puzzle rating of 100 there. All right, so definitely going to be a scary looking game. These are connected, so they are in fact helping one another. So if we were to capture this, the queen is going to come back over, capture ourselves. So definitely not something that we necessarily want to jump into, but it is one of our available captures, and it is actually our only available capture. So definitely not an ideal move, just trading it down. It will come with check. We want to make sure that we have something better. Again, we have nothing with the pawns, but if we were to move this pawn up, that's going to give us a discovered check on the king, mostly because you can only discover check on the king. You'll move this pawn up, you'll give this check, If the king moves, then you're actually able to take this rook because it is no longer being protected along this row. So if we were to move up and maybe the queen moves in to block it, then we can go ahead and just capture that queen. Still check, and this pawn is still blocking this rook from being able to help. We go ahead and move this up, queen moves in, we're able to trade that down, again because we are perfectly fine with that trade because in the end we win that rook. All right, so definitely, again, as we've been saying before, this is definitely going to be a scary looking game. You know, we've got a lot of pressure. Our king is right here, so if we were to take this with check, we definitely want to be aware of what's going on. But because it is such a scary thing, we have to make sure that what we're doing makes a lot of sense. So we'll go through the whole thing as we've been doing, the checks and captures. So if we take a look, our pawns are too far away from anything to be able to capture. This rook is not able to attack anything, can't capture anything. And this queen is in fact able to capture, but it is only able to capture this rook. If we were to capture here, it is likely that we will have this move, and then we bring the rook down to block. At that point, what does black have available? Well, maybe they go ahead and grab this pawn right here. Definitely not something that we love, but it is a possibility. But before we go too far, what are the checks that we have available? So if we look at the checks that we have available, we have this right here. We have this right here, and that is unfortunately it for us. We don't love this because it just captures, but if we were to move up, what does that open up as a possibility for us? Well, opening up as a possibility for us, we have down here, we can move back with another check. Cut keeps going down. We've got checks galore, comes all the way over, then we maybe have this check. If instead we go the other direction, well, we can just check forever and just keep bringing it down. Let's go ahead and give that check. They're coming down, so what we're going to do is we're going to follow this down here, and we will go back and forth because we have no real ability to get out of this. So just a perpetual check where we're able to win, or at least draw the game that way. Puzzle rating of 152, completely disagree with that number. Okay, so again, we are in this particular situation where black has had a very interesting game on this side of the board. White is in an interesting developmental position, kicking the king all the way down there. We just had this knight move out, which is now protecting this square here. In terms of captures, we have this pawn, not a great pawn, right? Not something that we necessarily want to invest in. And that is actually it. All of our pawns are too far away from everything. Our rooks are hidden, can't go anywhere. And this bishop can't actually attack anything except for this pawn way down in the corner, quickly gobbled up by the rook, and definitely not a trade that we want to go with. We start looking at checks. We bring this all the way down, and this knight just jumps all over it. Jumps all over it, the knight being the one that jumps. It was funny. The only other check that we have available is in fact this one. We're not hit by the wonderful knight. We're not hit by the queen, as if the queen can move that way. So we're going to go ahead and jump right here. Puzzle rating of 100. I would definitely agree with that one. All right, so now that we are in this position, we have lots of captures available. I say lots, it just looks like a lot. We can't actually capture all of these, but it certainly looks interesting. So if we were to come in here and capture, and we have another capture, we may actually have this position right here. Don't love it. So if instead of all of those things, we actually come over here, we let the king move, or the knight move wherever he would like to move, and we can start capturing pieces. So even if in the end he captures that, we can always go ahead and get our pieces back. We don't have any checks available, And because we don't have any checks available, we have to start looking at our captures. And this is it. So the suggestion that I have is potentially to bring this over because of this wonderful lineup that we have. And if we were to move this over, the knight can come in, we can take the rook. If it takes our queen, we can go ahead and keep that momentum going. It takes here, takes again, and they are down many pieces by going that direction. We didn't get a chance to do that, but let me see if I can move pieces. I can't. I guess you'll just have to trust me on that one a little bit. All right, so definitely an interesting game here. Queen has definitely infiltrated. Our knight has already had a wonderful stroll through the park, and we are also attacking quite substantially. So there are a couple of different captures that we can have here. None of them are particularly good, but they are in fact captures. We want to make sure that we don't have a situation like this, where after queen to d8 with check, we can go ahead and capture this bishop. So what do we have available to us first? So we're looking at checks now. So we have this, doesn't necessarily do much for us. We have this, doesn't do much for us. This doesn't do anything for us. This gets eaten by the pawn. This has all sorts of terrible things that are happening with it. But looking a little bit further out, we have this bishop right here that we were so desperately worried about with this queen d8 check. And as soon as we bring this bishop out, the only option for the king is to put something in front of it. The only thing to be able to put in front of it is this bishop here, at which point we can capture bishop on d2 with checkmate. So let's go ahead and move that bishop up, and then queen to d2 checkmate. All right, so now that we're in this position, we are definitely up some pawns, but not definitely going to win the pawn endgame, but not something that we can do with the queens on the board. So how can we potentially get ourselves out of that situation? We have no ability to capture anything with our pawns. Apparently the pawn is a little bit having a bad day there. So in terms of checks, what do we have available for us? We only have this, and again, that's going to be checking at the same time as attacking the queen. So if we were to move up, queen captures, pawn captures, and then we have our 4 pawns to their 3. Well, I guess 5 pawns to their 3, and we are able to very quickly run up and grab these. It's going to be difficult to deal with the pawn structure here, whereas we have this wonderful passed pawn that will be able to run up the board. And pretty much no matter what, any move here, we're able to run up and not have any problems. All right, one last one to do, and then we can call it a day on this new series. So we have almost no captures at all. We wish we had this. We do not. We have this, but we don't love it. And that's it for us. So what are the options from a check perspective? It looks like it is just this move right here, but that's going to be enough for us because this bishop is protecting, this king is protecting, and if we move this bishop here, we are cutting off the final square for the king. So once we move this bishop up, the wonderful screen of checkmate would show up and you would have gained 1,000 rating points, and everything in the world is good. So I appreciate everybody jumping on and taking a look at this new series and this new video format. Let me know in the comments if you like it, and I can keep it up. Appreciate everybody stopping by and checking it out.